talking this month about cultivating community, and today is the gifts of giving, right? If you want more, you got to give, whatever it is. It was a perfect lead-in. You would think that was planned.
Yeah, 2 days ago.
So I'm going to see how awake you are, and see if anyone can translate that phrase for me. Ornithological specimens of identical plumage habitually congregate in the closest possible proximity.
Birds of a feather flock together.
Oh, yay! Yes, birds of a feather flock together. Take a look around the room and see your flock. I'm curious, how many of you were like reading all these books like The Secret and I don't know, Louise Hay, watching the PBS specials, Wayne Dyer, all of that stuff for years and years and years before you ever knew there was a place like this? Yeah? I know I was. Well, this is part of your tribe. There's a lot of them gone today. It's a holiday weekend, but this is part of our flock. You know, I think we all have certain things in common, and as a group, we're talking new thought people, like the kinds of folks that are attracted to a place like this have some things that we share. And I think particularly in this congregation, if you look at the diversity of our group, you know, we're very diverse in age and ethnicity and all kinds of things, that socioeconomics, and what is the common thread? Is there a common thread even? And I have to say, I believe that it is that we all share in some way or another a desire to be healers. Whether we're healers of the body, if we're healers of the mind, healers of people's emotions, it's about restoration and for ourselves, you know, to live our best lives and to help the people around us to live their best lives as well. Would you all agree? You know, we're kind of the people that we call ourselves maybe spiritual but not religious. People who are interested in the well-being of our planet and maybe some social activism to a degree or another. If you want to look up the demographic, it's called cultural creatives. And it cuts across demographics of all kinds. It seems that we are more ideologically driven than others. So what's the benefit of us gathering? Why gather, you know? I think maybe in just that introduction is kind of self-evident because we do have things that we share in common. Now, I know probably every one of you has been on a spiritual path for years. I know I was, even before I found the center. And it would be really easy. You just keep reading the books, right? Do the meditation, read the books. Why get up and come to a center on Sunday morning? Why come together in congregation? Why, when you can get all this stuff online or out of books or whatever? I think there's value. There's absolutely value in people coming together, congregating as a group. So I want to just share today what I think are some of the values that come from our gathering, you know, corporately together. One of those things is that this idea of finding yourself. You know, I'm gonna go through the whole list and then I'm gonna go through the things one at a time. But how many of you started on a spiritual path to find yourself? Anybody? Just me? All right. The next thing is that being in spiritual community provides you opportunities for healing and for growth that you might not have otherwise. Trying to do this thing on your own. It's great to be in meditation and sit in your house and be nice and quiet, or be on a mountaintop or something where nobody is bothering you and everything is wonderful. And of course you can be zen and peaceful. But let somebody cut you off in traffic. Let somebody say something about your kid. Let somebody somehow mistreat you or betray you, and see where does that zen go? Right? That's where the rubber meets the road, and that's another reason to come together in community, because it provides us those kind of opportunities. There is the opportunity for connection, right? That we all need to know that. I love what we're doing now in bringing in guest speakers, because it reminds people that we're not just this little light, you know, place of love and light here in little Ocala. We are part of something that is much, much larger. And that gives support and encouragement and fuel. I know it does for me. So it's also about connection. It gives you, being in spiritual community, it allows you an opportunity to use your gifts. Maybe to even recognize those gifts that you may not have known you had before. You know, I used to sing when I was a kid. I didn't sing for like 30 years. And then, or maybe 20, 25, something like that. Came in here and there was an opportunity for me to sing, and it was knees shaking, and you know, but here I am years later, I'm singing all the time, you know. So having that opportunity to use your gifts is often provided in a community like this. And then to use those gifts in the service of a higher purpose. Again, we talked about synergy. I'm going to speak a little bit more about that. But that we accomplish more as a group together than any one of us could ever do alone. So these are all reasons, and I'm going to break them down one at a time. So this idea of finding yourself. Richard posted this awesome, it's not a meme, but some kind of a thing on Facebook, on our Facebook page. And I read it and thought, I could make a whole talk just around this. So I'm going to read it for you, for those of you who may not have seen it. It says, finding yourself, again, quotation marks, finding yourself is not really how it works. You aren't a $10 bill in last year's winter coat pocket. Okay. Your true self is right there, buried under the cultural conditioning, other people's opinions, and inaccurate conclusions you drew as a kid that became your beliefs about who you are. So finding yourself, then, is actually a returning to who you are. It's an unlearning, it's an excavation, it's remembering who you were before the world got its hands on you. Can anyone relate to that? Right? So finding yourself, or this idea of spiritual transformation, is not that you're going to be something else. It's not that you're going to be somebody different. It's that you're going to release all of the crap, all of the stuff that life has put on you, or that you have internalized, right? Those things that we've come to believe that were nonsense, that never applied, or maybe they applied for a while and they don't work for you anymore. The spiritual path is about finding the truth of who you are without all that other stuff. And it can take a while. It can take a while because we don't always recognize those things for what they are. We don't recognize the lies necessarily for what they are. You know, it becomes part of that paradigm, that worldview that we have about ourselves and how things are and how they're supposed to be. And sometimes when you get on a path and you start to find out, wow, you mean all that stuff wasn't true? You know, it's kind of mind-blowing, right? You can feel like somehow the rug got pulled out from under you and the things that you believe now are not true. So what is true? You can feel like you're going through a crisis. Can anyone relate to that? I know I sure did. I did. I was just listening, sharing with Donna, the actress America Ferrera. Everybody knows she played Ugly Betty? She has a TED Talk, and she talked about her struggle in breaking out as an actress and being a brown-skinned person and a little bit overweight, like not the typical, you know, what we think of as movie stars, and how everybody around her was telling her how difficult it was going to be. You know, going out for different parts and saying, well, you know, you're a little too ethnic, or, you know, speak a little more Latina. You know, tell me to speak a little more Latina. I'm Latina, I'm speaking how I speak. What does a Latina speak like? What are we supposed to, does that mean, oh, broken English? Oh, I get it now. You know, that's the stereotype, right? But I'm as much Latin as she is, and we don't have to speak in broken English to speak Latina. Got it? So she also, like I did, and many other people, swallowed the poison. We swallowed the poison that there's something wrong with being who we are. That there's something wrong with people who are brown skinned, like we're not the, you know, somehow not the norm, or you don't look like what you're supposed to look like, or what society's view is of beauty and the norm. Am I making sense? Yeah. Right? So we swallow that stuff. I know I did for years. It was my grandfather, and in an offhand, he loved me very much, but just making a comment to me, saying that, you know, no man was ever going to love me because of my brown skin and my kinky hair and my big thighs. So I needed to lose weight so I could be acceptable. I needed to stay out of the sun. I needed to straighten my hair. This is the stuff I did at 11, 12, 13 years old that went well into my adulthood. Until I came to this, finding myself. and realizing that God made each and every one of us perfect exactly the way we are. Right? I swallowed that poison. And so for a while, my mind was messed up with that. And there's a lot of people that are messed up with that kind of thinking. We've all been told stuff that wasn't true. We've all swallowed it to some degree or another. And part of this spiritual path is realizing what all that stuff is and be able to let it go. Let it go. And be the person you came here to be. So finding yourself. And you might not get to realize something like that sitting in your home by yourself just reading your books. It takes bumping up against other people and hearing other folks and seeing their experiences and how they handle things. Good reason to come to spiritual community, don't you think? Especially with people who are on the same path as you. Right? People who can lend you that support. So being in spiritual community gives you opportunities for healing and growth. This was part of a quote that I used at the beginning of the month when I first introduced this idea from Parker Palmer. And he says, because we are communal creatures who need each other's support, and because left to our own devices, we have an endless capacity for self-absorption and self-deception, community is equally essential to joining soul and role. Your soul and your role. Can anyone relate to that? How we can get into our own heads and our own stuff and have that capacity for self-absorption, right? Self-deception. When you're in spiritual community, that stuff kind of comes out. It comes out in your, and so it comes up, and it may feel uncomfortable, and it may look like conflict, and it may look like issues, not just in spiritual community, even in your family. If you look at those things as they bubble up and start to feel uncomfortable, we look at it as an opportunity to release, an opportunity to let go of what no longer serves us, right? An opportunity to let go of some of the baggage that's been holding us down, right, and keeping us back. So in spiritual community, we have opportunities for healing and growth. And in this group in particular, I know that we have healers of all kinds. The idea occurred to me with this thing about healing this week for some reason, that illnesses of the mind and illnesses of the emotion are every bit as real as illnesses of the body. And just like illnesses and trauma and things that hurt us physically, those things that can hurt us mentally and emotionally can hurt, but they don't have to hurt forever. They don't have to hurt forever. It doesn't have to be a life sentence. So you may be going through something now that has you in depression, or going through something that has you in anxiety. Know that it could be something that just passes. But just like a physical ailment, we have to look at it. You have to be willing to look at it and address it. Because if you keep saying, it's not really there, it doesn't exist, if I put it under the carpet, let's put it in the closet, we don't look at those things, we don't talk about those things, right? What happens to them? They fester. They fester. Right? So emotional healing is possible. Mental healing is possible. Physical healing is possible. And there are practitioners in this room of all kinds that help facilitate healing for people. I don't say spiritual healing in all of that, because we come from the perspective, here at Centers for Spiritual Living, that we are already perfect, whole, and complete. There is no spiritual healing that is necessary. Ernest Holmes says there is no, how is it? It's gone. Do you remember it, Donna? There is nothing to heal, only truth to reveal. Right? There is nothing to heal, only truth to reveal. So spiritually, you are perfect, whole, and complete. It's the other stuff, maybe, where there's issues. So I don't say we do spiritual healing because we're already healed. But there can be healing in all those other realms of your being. And that's part of why we come together, to accelerate that, to make that possible. Which brings me to the idea of synergy. Synergy, y'all know that term? I spoke about it about a month ago. Synergy is where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So 1 and 1 is not just 2, it's more than 2. I use the example of the horses, and I can't remember the number breakdown, but if one horse can pull 9,000 pounds, 2 horses can pull 18,000 pounds. Let's add 4. What would that be if it was just, you doubled it, right? It would be 36,000. But it's not. It's not because of the synergy. I forget, it was a huge jump. I don't remember how much it was. That would be if it was just doubled, but it's more than doubles. And that's the idea, right? It can be exponential. When people come together in the service of a common purpose, a common goal, the synergy can get way more done than anybody would ever do on their own. It's almost magical. It's magical. So that is part of the reason that we come together in spiritual community. You see what all of our values are, what we're here to do. What's the number one thing? Do you remember, Donna? We say it every week. Spiritual growth and practice. Spiritual growth and practice. So you get yourself in a place where everybody else there is about the same thing, spiritual growth and practice. And what do you think is going to happen for your spiritual growth out of just being in that community? Right? Of course it's going to be accelerated. Even exponential, right, growth and transformation can happen because of the time that we come together. And the more that you give, the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. The more you get out of it. I see it. I've been coming to the center now since 2003. And as I think about the people who pass through these doors, and, sometimes, there was a woman that came in here using a cane and crutches, and boy, she was a mess. And so much of what she was going through wasn't as much physical as it was emotional, mental stuff that was weighing on top of the physical. Right? But as she started doing the work, right, taking the classes, doing the spiritual practice, looking at that nasty stuff in the closet she didn't want to look at for years and years, she started clearing it out. Within 6 months she lost the cane. We actually went on a trip to a park where I was pushing her in a wheelchair. 6 months later, we were out at Derby Gant jogging and doing 4 miles on the track. This stuff works. It works. Myself, I'm a completely different person than I was when I came in the doors here, 15, 16 years ago. I add 100 pounds to this. I'm not where I want to be yet, but add another 100 pounds to this. Right? The idea that I would get up here and speak on a stage and have you all looking at me and who am I to think I even have anything to say that anybody wants to hear? Right? That's where I was. I couldn't sing. I'd sit in the back of the room and just sit back there and just cry for months as I was letting go of all of that stuff. But it happened because of this community. And that's why I do what I do. That was my own testimony. I know that it works for myself and from seeing it for others. Connection. I envision this place, I have since I came in here, is that it is a place where people can come to plug in. Especially now as being the minister. And we are, next week we're having our board retreat. We've got a new board here, a new group of folks, and we're going to be charting our vision for where we're going for the next year, the next several years. What is it that we would like to see for this community? And I know when I started here as the minister, I can't say that I have had this vision of I want to be a Sunday minister and I'm going to do it for the next 20 years, right? Like Reverend Peggy did. That's what she knew she was going to do. I have envisioned this as a place, as kind of a place where healers and leaders, new thought leaders, presenters, teachers of all kinds, light workers, spiritual activists, rainbow warriors, whatever you want to call yourselves, could come to this place and to plug in and learn and recharge and then go out there in the world and do their thing.
Yes.
And then come back here and plug in and recharge and be inspired and uplift other people and get your groove on in here, and then go out in the world and do your thing, and then come back, right? And bring back what you've learned and share it and inspire others, so that is my vision for this place, that it is a place where people can come in and recharge and restore and go out there and be the best version of themselves they can be, and share that light and spread the light and help to make this change that we know is coming, right? We know that we are right now in the midst of some major shifting, major transition going on culturally, right, in our world. Things have to change. They have to change. And we're in it. And I look at each and every one of us, folks watching at home, all the folks in the New Thought communities, is that we are right on the edge of that paradigm shift. Right? Consciously, purposefully bringing in what it is we want to experience. Right? Do we want to experience more of the drama, the hatred, the isolation, the walls, the weapons, all of that? It's not working. It's not working. It's time to do something else. And it's time for us to step into that. So we come here for connection, and here's what we know. That love is the only final security in the universe. Love is the greatest healing power in this universe, and the only thing that binds people together in a community of spirit. And that is what I believe I found when I came here, was that sense of unconditional love and acceptance that I was okay exactly the way I am. Right? With my extra pounds, with my kinky hair, with my dark skin, with my disorganization, with my flying by the seat of the pants, all of that stuff, I'm okay. Because my puzzle pieces fit really well with your puzzle pieces and your puzzle piece and your puzzle piece, right? All together, we make that complete picture and accomplish so much more than any of us would have done on our own. So we come together for that connection, for that opportunity to plug in and to feel the love. We closed out 16-week class I've been teaching at Marion Correctional with, I think it was 23 gentlemen who are incarcerated for various things, some of them pretty serious. And some of these guys have been behind bars for 30 years or more.
Wow.
So they come into the class with me, and I'm teaching social emotional learning. We're talking about needs, and we're talking about feelings, and things that people don't talk about in prison, especially men, as I'm encouraging them and telling them that their anger serves a purpose, that their fear, that there's a reason for their fear, as they're saying, I don't fear anything. Right? This is the stuff we're talking about. And these guys did we call it a teach back, the culmination of 16 weeks, where each one took a portion of what we had talked about and taught it back to the audience. And some of these guys had never done public speaking in their lives. One guy is 60 years old, never been up on stage, that was excited to get up there and share with his fellow inmates, a group of about 80, maybe 90 people. They were inmates, they were prison staff, and volunteers, and shared what they learned about feelings, and shared what they learned about connection, and shared what it felt like to feel the unconditional acceptance, which I will call love, that we brought into that place. And the love doesn't diminish. It's not like other things. So I give you some, that means I have less. No, it's more like a flame. Right? As you take from the flame, what happens? Does it diminish? Does the flame disappear? No, it just keeps on going. Somebody else lights their candle from that flame, and someone else lights their flame from that one, and it goes on, and it keeps on expanding. And that's what these gentlemen have learned. And I have some people now in there behind bars, some of these guys that are lifers, never getting out, that now want to become facilitators of this work, so that they can help the younger guys that are coming in, so that when they get out, they'll have an opportunity and hopefully stay away from prison and the things that got them there in the first place. So connection is vital. In spiritual community, as I said, we get an opportunity to use our gifts. You know, your talent is God's gift to you. What you do with that is your gift back to life. If you don't like the word God, use the word life. Right? If you want more friends, be a friend. If you want more money, give money. If you want whatever it is you want, get it started by giving. You have to give. And that makes that, you know, if we talk about like the water flowing through a hose, that it can just flow, but sometimes the hose gets kinked up. The water's still trying to flow, but the hose has a kink in it. The kink for you all could be, maybe, you know, if the money's not flowing, maybe you need to get that. Unkink it by giving some money. If you're feeling a little lonely, you don't have enough friends, unkink that hose by stepping out and being a friend to somebody. Right? Whatever it is that you want to see more of, start giving that. Use your gifts. This is a phenomenal place, and we're very, very open to people using their gifts here. We have lots of opportunities. We've got the Help Wanted sign that Richard created all around the sanctuary. Opportunities for people to step up and use their gifts here. But if you don't want to use it here, or you don't have something that you feel can be used here, give your gift someplace. Give someplace. Do for others. And that is the last thing. It's not the last thing. Thanks, Richard. This idea, this came from Jim Rosemerky's talk. Sometimes we don't give because we're afraid that we don't have enough, or there isn't enough. But as Reverend Jim said, there is more than enough. And you are more than enough. Each one of us is more than enough, and we can give. And so we ask that you give serving some higher purpose, whatever that is, whether your interest is in the sustainability of the planet, or in healing children, or in taking care of veterans, or whatever your thing may be. I hope that it's helping to help us expand and share this message. You know, because we know that there are lots of people out there in Barnes & Noble in the self-help sections reading this book and just wishing and praying that there were other people that they could connect with, that could understand them, that can relate, that could support them. Right? So serve a higher purpose. Help us get the word out. Bring your friends. You know, throw a little extra in the basket. We'd love to start advertising so we can let people know that we're here. You know, support the outreach that we're doing in our community. Ernest Holmes said this: a power greater than you has put you here. Do you realize that? A power greater than you has put you here. I did not birth myself. None of us did. Yet somehow, here we are. It's one of the great mysteries of life, isn't it? Like somehow you just open your eyes and there you are. Where was I before? Where am I going next? A power greater than us, for all of that mystery, put us here. Everyone has a place to fill in life, and the world has need of you now. The world has need of you and your abilities and your skills and your talents and your passions and your joys right here and now. Therefore, you must affirm and believe you are one with life because you represent life. You can think and you can reason and you have the capacity to choose because you're one with that life. You are a creation of divine mind and you are therefore a child of God. And knowing that, what then is not possible for you? When you really get and you really understand that you are the walking, talking manifestation of Spirit itself, there's nothing you can't do. Anything that you tell yourself you can't do is just that. You've told yourself you can't do it. These are the times we are the people. This comes from the Introduction to the Science of Mind, and it's written by Jean Houston, and she says, how can we deal with a world changing at so rapid a pace that we're caught between the dangers that threaten us and the opportunities that beckon us? Now think about that. The word crisis, I'm told that the Chinese character, you know how they use it, it's like little pictures in Chinese language. Excuse me. The character for crisis is danger and opportunity. Right? Danger and opportunity. And isn't that where we are right now? Is there danger? Yeah, absolutely. Is this an opportunity? Absolutely. And this is where we find ourselves. For the first time in human history, we are required to extend ourselves in radically new ways of being. The tasks that are now ours, the tasks of virtual creation, compel the revolution in consciousness that tells us we are part of the great unfolding of spirit and flesh. You know, we are here in this teaching, and we believe that we create our experience of reality. You know, that she talks about the task of virtual creation. Everything that we see was created in mind before it became a manifestation. We know that. We know that. Folks out there don't know it. We're creating all the time. Every one of us, whether you know you're creating or you don't, is creating all the time. What we do when we come in here together is that we become conscious of the ways that we are creating so that we can create on purpose, not by default. Because when you create from default, you're using some of those old programmings and some of that old nonsense and stuff that you were told that didn't work. And if you're still working in that mindset, what are you going to create? More of the same. More of the same. So we come together in spiritual community so that we can get clear and understand what is ours to do, find our authentic selves, and create with intention and purpose. Right? That's part of the spiritual path, is just waking up and knowing that, understanding that. These are the times, and we are the people. We can't wait for other people to fix it. It's not going to be fixed from on high anywhere. It's not being fixed by our governments. It's not. Your life is not going to be fixed by any of the people around you. Do you realize that? Right? No one else can do it for you. It would be like you asking me to eat for you. That doesn't work. I can't eat for you. I can't exercise for you. This is an inside job for each and every one of us. Nobody else can do certain things for us. And the spiritual path is like that. We can read about other people's experiences, but we all have to walk our own. And so we come together in spiritual community to learn how to do that in the best way possible. Is anyone else up for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope you are.